Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, I had my mic muted. Let me start all over again. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to today's session. This particular quote really caught my eye. Charles Moore, who was a marine researcher, once said, "Never gather up all the plastic and put the ocean back together again." Welcome to the second episode of Cohabitat, a project initiated by the Rotary Club of Colombo East and carried out jointly with the Wildlife. And Sylvia Earle once said, "It is the worst time, but it is the best of times because we still have a chance." This on its own enunciates the importance of seminars such as these to create awareness among the general public about the importance of protecting. And today, we have a very special guest here with us today. She is none other than Chathurika Munasinghe. Now, Chathurika is a lecturer attached to the Department of Zoology, Faculty of Science at the University of Peradeniya, and holds a master's on association between coral bleaching and diversity of fish communities. And just areas that we would like to touch upon are turtle rehabilitation and Sri Lanka Turtle ID project. Chathurika, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on board.
Thank you. And now let us move on to the discussion portion of the session. First of all, starting off, Chathurika, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and what exactly your profession is all about?
Yeah, so I would say like I'm someone passionate about like protecting the marine wildlife and marine habitats for future generation, and I try to share my knowledge in many different ways to help protect the oceans. And about my profession, I work as I'm attached to the Department of Zoology of the University of Peradeniya, so where I teach undergraduates about coastal and marine biology, about marine pollution, and do some practical research about marine environments.
Okay, that's very interesting. So, so a friend of mine has always told me, when it comes to a profession, you should do what you love and love what you do. Chathurika, do tell us what drives you to be in your profession.
Yeah, I would say like I'm driven by, of course, like I'm driven by the passion and also the dedication rather than anything else. Because like for example, like mostly at the earlier stages of your career, like you get volunteer opportunities and internship opportunities, like where you have to spend like hours under the hot sun doing this field work, because marine biology and coastal biology you have to do on the beach, and those kind of field work needs a lot of dedication. And also some days you don't go out in the field, but you spend like hours in front of your laptop analyzing the data you've collected. And like some days are like really difficult, but when you do something you love, like when you are doing something you're passionate about, I think those kind of things are like not an issue, and it's worth the time.
For sure. And was there anything specific that motivated you to getting into marine conservation and saving the turtles?
Yeah, saving the turtles are like it's part of the marine conservation work that we currently do in a large scale. But for marine conservation, like it was during my undergraduate times that I volunteered in a coral reef restoration project for the first time, and that's when I realized that I need to learn more about marine conservation, about marine life first. And those were the days like I was studying for I was majoring in zoology, and then after I finishing my degree, I thought I would do a master's, something related to climate change and coral bleaching. So yeah, so it was during my undergraduate times I got really passionate about marine conservation, and that's when I realized that I need to do more about saving marine life.
Okay, so now as an expert in the field, what would you say are the main issues that we face as of present?
Yeah, there are like issues, like one of the most threats to marine ecosystems, like it's due to climate change, that there's ocean acidification, coral bleaching, and sea level rise and so on. And apart from that, there is like a big problem that we create is plastic pollution, and like oceans are increasingly getting plastic on a daily basis, and like it's becoming a plastic soup, and that's one major issue for marine conservation. And also there are some other issues like unsustainable fishing and overexploitation of fishing resources. And so when it comes to marine conservation, lots of organization, researchers, and scientists are trying to find solutions for these type of issues. And what we are going to talk about today, the restoration and rehabilitation, are part of the solution for some of these issues.
Okay. So as promised, one of the main areas that we are going to cover in today's discussion is seagrass restoration. Now, to the layman of the audience, could you explain what seagrass restoration is and why is it so important?
Yeah, yeah, I've prepared some slides,
Okay.
and if you could just share the slides with me, I can explain with the slides. So until then, I'll tell why it is important to like restore these seagrass habitats. So Sri Lanka had a vast area of seagrass meadows, especially in the northern part of the country, northwestern part of the country, especially in Mannar. And about 60% of these seagrass meadows are already gone, and what is remaining is fragmented. So, and also because of this depletion of these seagrass meadows, the marine life it harbors, like the let's say that the species that are dependent upon these seagrass meadows, like sea turtles, some of the species, and dugongs, and some of the fisheries species are like depleting. So that's why we have to do something about it, and that's where restoration comes along. So what we have to keep in mind about this is like we have to try to protect what remains at all cost, because that's the natural environment. But what's been lost, we have to restore that. So that when we do some restoration, it will initiate the recovery of the natural environment. So that's what we are trying to do from this project.
So as we can see on the screen, we can see the two contrasting pictures. I mean,
Yes, yes.
yeah.
Yeah, one is a healthy seagrass habitat, and the other one is something restoring.
Okay. So I understand that you were part of a rehabilitation program at a resort in Maldives. Am I right?
So, yeah, you're right. So I will just explain a little bit more about the seagrass conservation project, because it
Sure.
is something that you can also volunteer. If anybody is interested, they can come along and volunteer in the seagrass restoration project. It's in Kalpitia. So if you go to the next slide, so this Seagrass Restoration Project is a collaboration between Ocean Conservation and Education Alliance and University of Peradeniya, and it is funded by the Rafford Foundation. Next. So I'll quickly So the objectives of this seagrass restoration project is to expand the existing seagrass beds in the culprit area, and we would like to expand it to Mana as well. So, and also we have to ensure the long-term survival of these transplanted seagrasses. So we are working with the local community, mainly like giving awareness about what we do. Next, and I'll quickly go through the process, like what we do, what the volunteers do with us. So we basically try to collect the seagrasses from a nearby healthy seagrass meadow. So like it's in a walking distance, like in a 500-meter perimeter. So some of the volunteers, they go and extract the seagrasses from the healthy beds. Next, and other volunteers, in the meantime, they will prepare the mixture, like with the fertilizers and the sediments from the healthy seagrass beds. Next, and what we do is we plant these small plugs that we've already collected in a Hessian bag in that mixture. Next, and then we transport them into the restoration site. So, so the volunteers sometimes find it difficult to walk on these seagrass meadows, because most of the times these seagrass meadows are muddy areas, and unless you are a wading bird, it's really difficult to go there. So time to time, we have developed some methods like using buoys and using floats to transport these seagrass meadows to the restoration sites, and then it is transplanted next in the restoration site. So next. So this is what it looks like just after, about 3 months after the restoration. So we usually plant them in 1 meter distance so that these plant roots, they can grow horizontally, and they will cover the whole area within like after 1 year or within like 3 years. So next, and also like we discussed, awareness is the key for such projects, restoration projects. So we do a lot of awareness with the school children and also children from the local community about the project. Next. Yeah, so if anybody is interested in volunteering for the seagrass restoration project, we can do so probably after this COVID situation. Previous.
Chathurika, so just to reiterate, if someone is interested, how would they be able to reach out to the organization? Is it through Facebook or Instagram?
Yeah, we have, you can connect us, like you can simply send us a message on Facebook, or you can simply send an email, and lots of volunteers have reached us through Facebook after seeing our posts about, like, usually we upload about few photos from the monthly restoration affairs, just to encourage others to come and join with us. So you can simply send a message via Facebook or just email us so that you can join.
Okay, so with that, we will move on to our next question. So I understand that you have very practical experience working with a restoration process in a resort in Maldives, right?
Yeah.
Yes. So maybe could you give us a little bit of an idea what the process looks like, and can you explain how this rehabilitating process of the turtles happen?
Yeah. So it's basically a rehabilitation center based at a resort, the Four Seasons Resort in the Maldives. So if you go through the slides, what this rehabilitation center does is, like, they allow injured or sick turtles to receive temporary medical care, so that the injured ones spend some of their injured times during with these turtle specialists in the turtle rehabilitation center, and once they recovered, they go back to the ocean, or like so that they can go back to the ocean and contribute to the normal wild populations. So next, so if you talk about the primary cause of admission to the rehabilitation center, it is entanglements. Um, usually most of the turtles that are being admitted to this center are olive ridley turtles. It's because most of the times olive ridley turtles, they spend their times in the open ocean, and it's the open ocean that we find a lot of drifting abandoned nets, what we call ghost nets. So they get entangled with these nets, and then they sometimes find it difficult to come to the surface to breathe, so they drown and die sometimes. But if they are on the surface, they sometimes cut their flippers and so on. So once they are taken into the rehabilitation center, we carefully look at the wounds, and sometimes if they have severe wounds around there, like cuts, and if there's infections, like we have to remove the flippers, we have to amputate them. And after that, we give good care, because they need extensive wound care for some period of time. And also some turtles, they spend few days within the rehabilitation center and they are lucky enough to go back to the ocean. But some turtles, they have to spend a long time to recover themselves from syndromes like floating syndrome. So once they are being taken to the rehabilitation center, first we photograph the wounds, photograph the turtle, and also we weigh them and measure them. And also, since they have been out there in the ocean for some days without moving much, they have some algal growth on their carapace. So we try to remove them just to give a good clean. And also we check whether they are dehydrated, if their skin is wrinkled, so that we can give them some saline before starting any other medical process. And next. And so after that, they are in a big pool, and we feed them every day. So diet preparation is like we usually feed them fish, crabs, or lobsters, and we don't forget to add some multivitamins and calcium. It's sometimes we just hide the capsule inside the pieces of fish or any other food, and we try to give them. And also this feeding, sometimes it's free feeding for some of the turtles. If they are healthy and if they can swim, we just throw the food into the pool so that turtles can grab them. But some turtles, they are unable to swim because maybe they've lost some flippers or likewise. So in that case, we have to tongue feed them. So what we do is we just move the food here and there so that the turtle does a little bit of work to get it. They exercise themselves, swim towards the food. And also if the turtle is in good health, if it can dive, we do some enrichment feeding where we use some freezed ice blocks with the food, so that once it's in the pool, the turtle has to go and do a little bit of work to get their food, so that like what they do out there in the oceans. So, and also every day we do assess them for health, we assess we check for any wounds or any new injuries, or whether they have fed daily, or whether they have lost their appetite, and so on. So next. So, and also we have to clean the pools every day, because some of the these pools, they can get a lot of algae growth on their walls. So we have to clean the pools every day. So we scrub them, scrub the walls, and also we have to vacuum the pools. So sometimes we just remove half of the water from the pools and refill the pool with new seawater. Next. And also every Wednesday is a turtle care day. So on turtle care days, we take the turtles out of the pools and then we weigh them just to see whether they have lost their weight, meaning that they have not fed enough. Likewise, and also we, since these turtles are in the pools all day, there is a possibility that they grow some algae on their carapace. So we give a good clean using a scrub, using a sponge. And also we try to remove any dead or infected skin from their wounds. And also we take the photos of the injured. We basically take pictures of the whole turtle, their flippers, their head, their carapace, and so on. And if there are any injuries or wounds, we take photos of them as well. And so the usually most of the turtles, so these are some numbers as of 2019. So there were like many turtles who were admitted. They were lucky enough to go back to the ocean. So one of the things that we see on these turtles is a buoyancy syndrome, where they are unable to dive into the deep areas. So for the turtles to survive, they have to go down and grab their food. So we don't know the reason for this floating syndrome, also called the buoyancy syndrome. But if they are good in diving, back again, they can go back to the ocean. So some of the turtles are satellite tagged to see where they are going. So in the next slide, you can see the 7 of the turtles who've been tagged. They have gone to all the way to the Bay of Bengal and to the Indian side of the western part of the Indian sides and so on. So, and also this is some interesting thing. It is also famous. So the resort is in Lanka, and this is a big turtle enclosure just in front of the resort. There is a big pen. So this pen, we use this to put some healthier turtles who can dive, to give them some more space so they can swim under our inspection, and also they can dive deep to grab food. So every day we go to this turtle enclosure and feed the turtle that is there as well. And sometimes we try to train them to dive, like we grab their food and with a pair of tongues, and then we we go down so that the turtle follows to grab their food, so they get some exercises, and they try to get their food, so they have to dive, and likewise. So for the turtles who are not being able to go back to the ocean, this happens because some of the turtles, they'll lose their front flippers, and then so they need the front flippers to dive down to grab their food. But so the turtles who lost their front flippers, they can't go back to the ocean, so they have to be in a pool for their entire life. So for those turtles, we have this Flying Turtles project, where turtles are being sent overseas, mostly to Belgium and Netherlands. Some of the zoos, they accept these turtles for research purpose, so that once we send them there, they have bigger pools, bigger space, and good facility, good medical care, and also they can research more about this floating syndrome, and they can tell us what is going on. So some of the times we don't have facility at Landa Girabaru to treat these turtles, so there they have a good life as well. So some of the turtle, they are lucky enough to go back to the ocean, but the other turtles who are unable to go back to the ocean, they fly.
That is definitely very interesting. And moving on, could you, Chathurika, could we talk about the problems that these turtles face?
Yeah, so there are lots of problems nowadays for these turtles, from habitat destruction to various kinds of threats from humans. So to sum up a few, these are So we've already discussed about the ghost nets. So they get like hundreds of turtles are getting entangled with these ghost nets on a daily basis. And coastal development and marine debris, so the coastal debris, have been a problem for turtles, especially for nesting turtles. And also plastic pollution. These turtles, not only the turtles, but marine wildlife, they ingest these plastics and polythene, and later they die because of that. And also light pollution, or the bright lights on the beaches, they disorient the hatchlings that go back to the ocean, and also it distracts these mother turtles who tries to come to the ocean to for nesting. And also there is egg poaching, turtle egg poaching, which was a problem in Sri Lanka as well. So yeah.
Hi, Chaturika. I'm so sorry. I have a bit of a problem with my audio. So, moving on to our next question. So, one of the main topics, or rather areas that we promised our viewers that we would focus on, is the Sri Lankan Turtle ID project. Maybe could you emphasize a bit on the Sri Lanka Turtle ID project?
Yeah, so Sri Lanka Turtle ID project is again a collaboration between Ocean Conservation and Education Alliance, University of Peradeniya, and Paul Henner Diving Center. So let me tell briefly about the sea turtle species in Sri Lanka. So in the world, there are 7 species of sea turtles, and out of that, 5 species of sea turtles come ashore for nesting in Sri Lanka. So turtles are really important for to monitor the health of the oceans. For examples like hawksbill turtles and green turtles, the females, they mostly live on the coral reefs. So once they are there, they feed on the sponges and algae, which are competition for coral reefs to the corals to grow. So likewise, these turtles, each and every species, have a unique importance for the health of the oceans. So for any conservation effort for turtles should come with some understanding about these turtles, their feeding patterns, their foraging patterns, and so on. So that's why that's where this identification of turtles comes along. So next, so the turtle identification, it's like identifying a person from their fingerprint. So because these turtles, they have their facial scale pattern is very unique. And so if you have a snap of the turtle's face, you can actually identify individuals. And this method was found in 2010. So, and we have been using the software next to identify these turtle individuals. And next, so far we have 21 entries to our database, and out of that about 18 are hawksbill turtle, which is the most common turtle in the reefs of Sri Lanka, and 3 were green turtles. And there were a lot 6 times more hawksbills photographs than green turtles, and all of the photographs were of female turtles. And also next, these are some of the examples of the so yeah, these turtles were photographs around the island from Pigeon Islands National Park mostly. And next is some of the turtles that we have in our database. So these photographs were submitted by marine biologists, dive professionals, and also marine archaeologists as well, and also some of the guests who visit the hotels and the resorts in around the country. They also get involved with this turtle identification project, and they submit their photos as well. So once you submit a photo, if it's a new turtle, if it's someone that's not in the database already, you get the chance of naming the turtle as well. So these are some of the names and the turtle pictures. So next one is from Pigeon Islands, and then these are submitted by the by Nishan, and some of the pictures from Kalpitiya by marine archaeologist Rasika, and so on. So these are some of the examples from our database. And so if you really want to get involved with the project, what you have to do is, like, when you're out there on the reef diving or snorkeling, you just have to take a photo of snap the turtle's face. If you can, try to snap both sides, and then try to get a photograph of the carapace as well. And also, like, if you can, try to remember what the location was, and also any details about the sighting, whether there were a lot of people in the area snorkeling, and likewise whether they were feeding or whether they were just roaming. And also, if you can see any remarks on the turtle, like barnacles, or if you see any injuries, try to submit those details along with the photos as well. But if you just if you are out there just for a snorkel and you see a turtle, you just can take a photo of the turtle's face and just send the turtle's photo to our database as well. And so once you have the photos, you can submit them via Sri Lanka Turtle ID Project Facebook page, and also you can email them to us so that we can identify your turtle. And if you're lucky enough, if it's a new turtle, you can name the turtle as well.
That is definitely very, very interesting. So Chathurika, another one of the questions that I do have is, when it comes to projects like these, what are the factors that need to be considered beforehand before taking in projects like these?
Yeah, like in any other conservation project, there should be a proper planning, and there should be a good motivated team with you. And if you are considering about restoration projects, site selection is one good factor that will determine the successful success of your project. And also, like, if you're working with any kind of conservation project, you definitely have to work with the local community. So make sure that you educate them more, do some awareness about what you do, so that they can also help the conservation projects or restoration projects. Sometimes they really like to help these projects in Kalpiti area. And also, we have to make people familiarize with this type of projects. So once they're out there on the reef, maybe it's just for fun, but sometimes you like to contribute a little bit for marine conservation as well. So in those cases, awareness is the key, I think.
Sure. So moving on to our next question. For people who are very interested after seeing this session today, who are very interested to getting into this line of work, what skill set do you recommend that they possess if they are getting into this kind of work?
Yeah, so these projects and also marine conservation, it's a vast topic in science. So I would say that if you are really interested about marine life, and if you are with affinity with the environment, you can do a lot without having much skills. I mean, with specific skills. For example, like, you can do some keen observations from a boat, or sometimes you can just go out there for snorkeling and get some observations and collect some data for scientific projects. And also you can get involved with some questionnaire surveys related to this marine conservation and so on. But if you are really interested in doing some underwater marine life, and if you're keen on working on underwater marine habitats like coral reefs and seagrasses, So you have an added advantage if you can scuba dive or free dive.
I'm pretty sure a lot of people in the audience, probably after this session, would look into maybe volunteering with your organization. And so, like moving on to the next question, this is also very audience related. What do you think as a society we can do to save our marine life?
There's lots of things that we can do as a society, but I just take one example, like we are adding a lot of plastic to the oceans every day. So actually, like about 80% of the plastic that ends up in the ocean comes from the land. So it's not generated in the oceans. So we are responsible for that. And sometimes it's the small things that we do matters. So if you can refuse the straw when you're at the juice bar, that matters a lot, because that's just an example, because like the small things, when millions of people do that, it makes a big change. So there are lots of other things that you can do: be responsible, be conscious about nature, and act responsibly, and likewise.
So one thing that I really wanted to point out was marine the protection of marine life and wildlife is not a subject that should be confined to just a little bunch of expertise, like experts, right? Like one of, I think, the biggest call to action incident that happened was very recently when 100 whales were washed ashore the Panadura beach during a lockdown. So this call to action that everyone in our society should be aware of how these animals could be protected. So lastly, my question to you is, what is your message that you would like to leave with our audience today?
Yeah, my message to everyone uh, is that try to learn about this marine life. Like what I believe is, like, you can't protect what you don't know. So first try to go out there, just grab your snorkel and mask, or just try to go to the beach and observe, and just try to learn about these coastal and marine environments and the marine life. And then you know about it, and then you know the value of it, and then only you get the intention that I need to save this marine life. So first of all, you have to learn about marine life, uh, and also you have to, like, act responsibly, like the one I just said about plastic and all. So, and also we have to understand that we are all interconnected to the nature and also to the ocean. So, for example, like a person in candy, like me, like the toffee wrapper that I throw away uh, might end up, uh, will most of the times will end up in the ocean through the rivers. So likewise, if we can, like, learn about this stuff, if we understand the interconnection between these things, we can definitely act responsibly, and also never ever lose the hope for marine conservation and to preserve the marine environments for future generations.
Yes. And with that, we wrap up today's session. Thank you so much, Chathurika, for joining in and having this very informative session with the presentation and everything. Thank you so much for taking your valuable time and being here with us today. And to our viewers, I would really like to thank you for joining in. I mean, we can start small. It's not about volunteering. Maybe the smallest steps could be even joining this session is a really small step. And thank you so much for
Exactly.
taking that. Yeah, and I would like to leave you with a quote from President Bill Clinton. He said, "We know that when we are protecting our oceans, we are protecting our futures." And with that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. Have a good night.